What we're experiencing right now is really a shift from the old systems of duality and separation, the denser layers experience of believing in our separation so much that we fight against each other and we fight against ourselves. And we're moving into a time where we understand and are conscious of oneness. Hello, my name is Allison Holly, and I am a channel and an awakening guide. These are titles that I use to help describe what I do. I believe that we're all here to receive divine guidance through ourselves. I had a spiritual awakening in 2012, and it was really a very powerful experience. It wasn't a subtle experience, it was a sudden blast open of my crown chakra, my third eye. I was receiving visions. I started spontaneously channeling. And I had a lot of other experiences. It really felt like a psychedelic journey for a full 3 months. But also it felt somewhat more normal than the life that I had been living previously. So somehow it felt more safe, more understandable to me than what was previously my life, which is kind of surprising. When I tell a lot of people that I went through a spiritual awakening and I tell them some of the things that I experienced, they think that it would have been really scary. And parts of it were uncomfortable, but it definitely felt more normal than anything that I'd previously experienced. I felt like, oh, this makes sense. I'm home now. During my spiritual awakening, that initial spark, I started spontaneously channeling. And the second time that channeling came through, it was actually a visionary experience. I pulled my car over and I was talking to my mom on the phone, and I was just essentially seeing a movie in front of my eyes. Um, and it was all about the earth changes that actually we're currently experiencing. So I saw a lot of flooding. I saw a lot of things that we haven't seen yet, but there was a lot of flooding, and I don't honestly remember a lot of the rest of the channeling. I just remember feeling pretty scared as I was seeing it because it was such an intense vision. It really felt as if my regular human vision went offline, and it was very intense, showing itself to me right in front of my eyes. Um, that being said, since then, I have seen and understood a lot more about what we're moving into. I do want to say that during that particular visionary experience, when I felt scared and I said that, oh, I'm seeing all of this and I feel scared. And I remember one of the questions that my mom asked me, are we okay? As in where we're located right now, because what I was seeing was a lot of flooding. And she said, are we okay? And I said, you are okay because you exist in love, which didn't make sense to me at the time. I didn't understand how somebody could be okay with all of this flooding going on because they exist in love. That was really a shocking revelation to me. So, for the past 12 years, I've been channeling consciously, really moving into these spaces on purpose. And what I have seen since then, all of that makes a lot more sense. Because the reason that we're going into these earth changes, I think, is really powerful, and I don't hear a lot of people talking about it. It's not just that we're going through earth changes because of climate change and things like that. Climate change is happening, but the reason that we're going through these earth changes is actually because it's a divine expression of the ascension process that we're in. The sun is sending powerful solar rays to assist with the awakening process of the earth, and that is causing so many of these weather changes. It's causing so many of these earth changes in general that we're starting to witness. So I think a lot of people see all of these changes and they think it's human created. They think that some people really even go into punishment around it, but that's definitely not something that I've seen. And I also want to mention that everything is in perfect alignment and perfect harmony with the greater plan. So even though it seems that all of these changes that are occurring right now are very scary, they might be damaging to us individually, they might be unexpected, and it might feel as if it's chaotic. What we're really experiencing is just a moment in the overall picture, and the overall picture is divinely orchestrated and very harmonic. So I know that I went a little bit there on a tangent, but I wanted to put that out there before talking about these earth changes specifically that I'm seeing. So what I have seen is, again, it's a lot of flooding. One of the reasons that water is such a big aspect to these changes is because water is a being all its own. Water has a lot to teach us, and water is very purifying and creates a very fast transformation. So what we'll notice actually is areas on the planet where a lot of light is being called in. We'll start to notice that they receive a lot of earth changes, particularly flooding, because water is so powerful at transforming and bringing in light codes. So we'll also see what I saw was the land masses really looking very different. Now, this could take 100 years. It's also going to happen very quickly because 100 years is a very quick, short amount of time when it comes to some of these very major changes happening. I believe that all of these things have the potential to happen, and also there is choice. So collectively, we are choosing how all of this unfolds. And again, I don't want to go into this idea of punishment, this idea that if we choose wrong, quote unquote, that we can have it be much more difficult or anything like that. In fact, when we make choices that are very powerfully calling in higher levels of light, the changes occur more rapidly. And so we may actually experience what feels like more chaos within a shorter amount of time, but that's simply because we are calling in the changes much more quickly. The key is that we be non-attached to it. And actually, because I keep repeating that it's really important that we not go into this idea of punishment, that's another aspect of it. The more that we can move into both non-attachment and the understanding of oneness, the easier this will be. That's because when we exist in duality, we believe in punishment, we believe in right and wrong. So when our consciousness is predominantly in duality, we're going to see things happen and we're going to interpret it as I'm wrong or they're wrong. And it's really important that we learn to elevate our perspective beyond that. Because as you can see from what I've been saying, it's not a punishment. It's really change. And change is neutral. Change is beautiful, and change is what we came here for. So all of these changes, they can be easier on us if we remove our attachment. That being said, it may not happen in the exact way that I've seen. Things on the physical plane can be a bit different depending on the choices that we make. Overall, the full picture is going to occur. The ascension process is going to occur, and how we navigate it is also going to change how it occurs to an extent. But there's a lot that's going to be changing, and so, I like to say all roads lead to Rome, because whether we go this direction or we go this direction, we're still going to get there. We get to determine how easy it is on us individually based on our non-attachment, and collectively based on the amount of love that we allow to move through us through this process. I like to center because I'm trying to be in a channeled space all the time, so. What we're experiencing right now is really a shift from the old systems of duality and separation, the denser layers experience of believing in our separation so much that we fight against each other and we fight against ourselves. And we're moving into a time where we understand and are conscious of oneness. So the old systems, the systems that are built on duality, are shifting and changing. And in some ways, they may not exist at all in the future because they don't serve in the experience of oneness. I don't want to get too specific on what those old systems are because we kind of know that everything that's existing right now is going to be shifting because predominantly we still have a strong belief in duality. That being said, what we're moving into with oneness, I'd like to share a little bit more about what that really means. When I talk about oneness, some people believe that it means that we move into groupthink and that everybody believes the same thing. But oneness is actually a consciousness state. It's not a mental state. Those are two separate things. Consciousness is the overall experience of the being and where we are predominantly vibrating. And belief systems or ideologies is of the mind. The mind is built to continue programs. So the mind is built to help us believe in physical reality. So the mind says, this is what I've seen before. I'm going to keep recreating this so that I see it again, so that I believe it again, so that I can maintain some sense of reality. And this is why we're moving so much into the heart, because seeing through the heart is going to assist us in moving into oneness consciousness. The heart is not of those programs of duality where we need to continue to believe the same thing over and over again. So we will be moving back into oneness consciousness. We will be of a consciousness that is in harmony, and we will still be very much individuals. We'll move into individually our higher self-expression and not so much our ego self-expression. So we will be operating in harmony within ourselves in that oneness state within, which inherently means that we'll be operating in oneness with each other. And this is a process. What we do in this incarnation is we individually move through that process of being comfortable, being in union with ourselves so that we can be in union with each other. And when we do that, we recognize that all of us are aspects of the full one as different expressions, and that is the perspective that we'll have in oneness consciousness as individual beings. Right now it seems like there's a lot of division on the planet. There's a couple reasons for that. One is because as we start to shift something, the old program sort of amplifies before it clears. The other reason is because it's not actually more conflict at this point, but we're more sensitive to it. A lot of people see that there's so much conflict in the world and they think it's worse than it's ever been. It's actually simply more amplified. And it's, in a way, it's more amplified because we're really sensitive now. Things that are occurring now would have been paradise. The way that things are now would have been paradise for people in the past. And that's an odd perspective for people to see. But also, things that have occurred in the past, if they were to occur now, we would be disturbed. We wouldn't be able to handle it. We're so much more sensitive because we're coming into inner union with ourselves. So even the things that we do within ourselves, we are less comfortable with division within ourselves. We're less comfortable with hate. We're less comfortable with division and separation in general. And so we're raising a big red flag around those issues because we can't bear to see them anymore because we are coming into inner union. So it's not that things are worse. It's actually things are so much better. And we want them to be even better because we see that division doesn't need to exist anymore. We see that we can live in harmony, and we desire that with our great love. And also, so many beings are coming into the planet at this time who are starseeds, who have never lived the Earth experiences. And so this layer of density feels very uncomfortable, which means that this type of separation feels very uncomfortable because of the high frequency of these starseed beings, and they haven't been acclimated to some of the denser realities of separation. And so a lot of those star seeds are even more sensitive, and they're really coming out and saying, okay, I've brought a new message, we're going to do something different now. I'm actually a starseed, and what that means is that I haven't had any previous human incarnations, or because I believe that all is now, I haven't had any concurrent human experiences. So my soul was seated essentially within a different star system, not on Earth, but outside of Earth. Many people in the Earth experience right now are starseeds. Many of the people who are on the planet right now, even if they have lived other human lifetimes, are also still coming into the remembrance of their starseed lineage, meaning they remember where they're from. They're starting to remember where their soul was seated, where their soul was created. So I would say that predominantly the beings on the planet at this point are starseeds, and even if the people who are here have had many Earth lifetimes, they're still remembering where they came from. So there's a high level of cosmic consciousness on the planet at this time. I've seen my personal soul journey and the experiences that I've had with Earth before I became this being. So during a channeling experience, what I was shown is that I assisted with the creation of the Mayan calendar, and I saw that I would come in a ship and visit the beings who inhabited Central and South America at that time, or, those areas at that time. And I assisted with downloading and receiving, giving those codes. I'm sorry, I need to start over with that. It feels like it's a little inaccurate. So what I've seen is that I visited the Earth before I became human, and I was a part of the creation of the whole system of the Mayan calendar. So I would visit the beings who inhabited the Earth at that location, Central and South America as we call it now, and I was assisting in bringing these new teachings, these new downloads, and new codes that would make up what we now know as the Mayan calendar. And what I was told in this particular channeling where I was shown this is that I fell in love with the Earth and the people of the Earth so much that I decided to incarnate here. I decided to come back during the awakening that we're experiencing, which it's very significant that my awakening occurred in 2012. And I decided to come back and assist with this planetary awakening process. So this is the part of human history which I'm the most familiar with because this is part of my soul journey. I believe that we will have a very different perspective moving forward. I think that it's important to communicate that. It's not that all of the sudden we live in paradise. It's that our internal viewpoint, the way that we see life, changes, and therefore we create a beautiful experience for the collective as each of us move into this very powerful understanding within. So the work here is not to point fingers and worry about what's coming and say, because of you, we can't move into paradise. It's really important that we witness what's going on within ourselves and bring in that internal knowing of paradise, of being in what I've been shown is we're going to move back into the templates of the Garden of Eden. So that will be absolutely abundant, and we will know abundance, and we will know pleasure and peace and joy and very high vibrational experiences. But that's not because out there changes. Out there changes when each of us individually moves through these changes internally, and we start to see life very differently. We don't see through the eyes of division. We see through the eyes of eternal abundance, which then we bring that in collectively. So right now, we're actually in the purification process. And the purification process, again, it's always an individual experience. I think when we look at this idea of purifying the earth, it's very much based in good people and bad people. This idea of separation again, this idea that the bad people will be cleansed, that we won't have to deal with that. But what's really happening is that we are starting to discover that we are all one. There isn't really a good, bad, anything in the world. It's simply our ability within to hold unity, to be in unity, to see ourselves, to know ourselves as unified beings. And when we do that, and I know that this doesn't make sense to the mind, but when we do that, we are able to significantly change the vibrational experience that we're having, and that includes all of the people on the planet. So this idea of purification is always something that occurs within. Now, the earth is also going through her own divine dance through this ascension process. So like I said, we're experiencing more and more of these solar flares, and they will amplify. But what I've seen is that this is the sun and the earth dancing in this divine union dance. And not that they're going to come together, but the divine union is the sun projecting these beautiful rays to assist with the enlightenment process of the earth. And the earth is receiving these activations, bringing them in, and allowing changes to occur. So that's when we view it from that perspective. It's very divine and very beautiful. It's creating what we call destruction simply because we have attachments to the way that things have been. And we view a lot of things when they're changing as negative or punishment, but it's just never that. It's always a shift, and sometimes the shifts are more difficult on the human perspective, the human experience, but we are moving into a place where we are in harmony with each other, and that's simply because we're in harmony with ourselves. And to do that, there is an inner purification process that happens. Timelines are really malleable. Timelines can shift based on our collective decision making. Timelines are they are expressions of the energetic collective energies that we are existing in. So if we see a particular timeline unravel, that really means that collectively we've made different choices that move us along that path. It can be faster or slower. Time, from my perspective, from the way that I see it, it's more like an accordion where we can compress it or we can lengthen it. And also, time is really just an expression of many different experiences. So if we say that a timeline is shifting, what we really mean is we're changing the experiential quality of what is occurring in sequence. We're changing the expression of our energy coming through us collectively and moving us forward. So timelines are sort of a myth in that it doesn't really work that way. It's really more a movement through different expressions based on our choices. We can prepare for the future by existing in it now. So what do we desire moving forward? And then exist in it, be in it now. I wrote this in my first book, The Era of the True Creator, that we create the future because the future is, again, it's an expression of the energy that we currently hold. And then that moves into the denser layers of matter. So we create the future based on the vibratory expression that we are within and that we're bringing. So how do we create the future? How do we have the most optimal future for ourselves and create that for the collective? Again, it's an individual process. It's funny that I talk so much about oneness and I talk so much about the individual, because you would think that in oneness it's more about the collective, it's more about group thinking. But again, I'll repeat that it's the individual that creates the collective expression. It's always that. So we never want to go outside of ourselves to create change. It's a very powerful game, but everything outside of ourselves in this human experience is actually an expression from each individual. So the way that we shift things is through our individual consciousness. So I'll get more specific. How can we do that? Individually, within, we move beyond duality. In order to move beyond duality, we want to hold both perspectives at once within ourselves in a very present way. So we hold the perspective of right and we hold the perspective of wrong, and we sit with that in presence, holding them both equally. What that does is it unifies it within ourselves. We also want to love and embrace all aspects of ourselves. It's really perfect timing. I watched a video yesterday that somebody sent me. Many people have heard of the story, the Cherokee story of the two wolves, and the black wolf and the white wolf, the good wolf and the bad wolf, and they exist within us. And in this story, the way that it's been translated, the story says, well, which wolf will survive? And the story in this version is whichever one you feed, right? So we've been taught only feed the good. But in this video that I was sent last night, the original teachings within the indigenous people and the Cherokee people that had this story is that you feed both wolves. You don't just feed the white wolf. You actually feed both wolves. Because if you only feed the white wolf, the black wolf is going to starve and going to cause problems. And if you only feed the black wolf, then the white wolf will starve and cause problems. And this story, this new understanding of these ancient teachings gives us a really big clue into the way that we've been operating with duality. We believe that only by moving forward with what we call good, we are going to somehow eradicate the bad. But it's the very viewpoint of good and bad that actually creates more division and more separation. When we can honor all expressions, all experiences, and I know that this is difficult, but we sit with all of it, everything, and instead of judging it, we bring it into unity consciousness within ourselves, and we witness that all are aspects of the whole. We don't need to push against anything, we actually embrace all of it. And that's how we move into inner unification, which creates the peace on earth, the harmony on earth. When we do that, it actually has a really powerful way. We think that if we embrace things that we don't prefer, we're going to create more of it, but we don't. It's not the perpetuation of the things that we don't want to occur. It is the embracing, the accepting, and the loving. And that transmutes it into a holistic experience. That transmutes it into really what we prefer. We can't quite make a choice if we're pushing against things and pulling against other things. It just vibrationally doesn't work that way. So when we're making higher level choices, what we're doing is we're sort of zooming out, embracing all of it, all of our experiences, and then moving forward with true choice, not based on, oh, I've got to push that away and pull that towards me, but based on neutrality. And in that neutral space, we're able to make very high vibrational choices.